Oh, Hilton stay, your beds are soft and cozy. No lumpy couch, no stiff futon, no shower line at crack of dawn. Oh, Hilton stay.
When you want holiday comfort you can count on, it matters where you stay. Enjoy comfortable rooms and friendly service when you stay with Hilton instead. Save up to 25% this season when you book with Hilton. Hilton for the stay. Terms apply.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. Stop waiting around for the perfect candidate. Instead, use Indeed sponsored jobs to find the right people with the right skills fast. It's a simple way to make sure your listing is the first candidates see. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs have 4 times more applicants than non-sponsored jobs. So go build your dream team today with Indeed. Get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
The Rev and the Rabbi. Entertaining and informative. On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Good morning. I'm Rabbi Joseph Potasnik.
And I'm Reverend A.R. Bernard.
Reverend, we are most honored to have with us His Eminence, Timothy Cardinal Dolan, Archbishop of New York, a close friend, a member of our family. And Rev, I would add to that, they have the best titles of anybody I know. We got
and the best duds.
we got the
when I dial up, I tell you, I was at it's good to be with you, Rabbi and Reverend. How much I appreciate and love you both. So thanks for the invitation, especially as Thanksgiving is close. I was at some dinner once, and Barbara Walters came up to me. And they had told, this is some official thing, they said, please dial up. So I wore the full. She comes up to me and gets real close and says, do you realize that every woman in this room is jealous of you because of what you're wearing? I said, I don't know if that's a compliment or not.
Yeah, that's funny. So we intend to talk somewhat about Thanksgiving. And I was looking at the Bible, the Jewish Bible, the Torah. And Leah, who is the wife of Jacob, gives birth to a 4th child. And says, for this child also I give thanks. That was the first reference to Thanksgiving. And the question is, what do you mean also? And the message is, just as you give thanks for the first child, you give thanks for every child. Don't take a blessing for granted. And I think Thanksgiving is a time to say, let's look around, see who's with us, remember those who are not with us, but let's remember we have much to be grateful for throughout the year.
Do we ever? Thank you, Rabbi. Thank you, Reverend Bernard. We were just chatting, folks, listening to us before we went on about our visits to prisons. And you talk about gratitude, Rabbi, and wherever we're at, there's an occasion for gratitude, even if we're down, even if things are looking tough. When I go to visit the prisoners, many of them will say to me, it's tough being here, but in some ways I'm grateful, because if I were not here, I may be dead. I'd still be on drugs. I'd still be with the gang. I'd still be robbing stores. They don't all say that. I have to be candid. But the number of guys that will say, I'm just kind of grateful that I'm here, as tough as it is. And that ability to give thanks, even in distress, is something, isn't it?
You know what I find? They're also very grateful for the chaplains, that people come, spend time, talk about faith, take a personal interest in the lives of those who are serving in these challenging conditions, and they express their gratitude. So it's very nice to hear.
You bet.
Do you gentlemen perceive that there is an attitude of ingratitude? Cardinal, you will be familiar with this passage from the letter of Paul to Timothy, 2 Timothy 3:2, when it talks about the disposition of individuals. And it says that, they're going to be proud, blasphemers, disobedient to parents. But it also lists unthankful. And that's almost 2,000 years ago that this was written, and an expression of the attitude of society. Are we experiencing, because Rabbi and I have talked about a deficiency of empathy, but also is there a deficiency of gratitude?
Well said, Reverend Bernard. I think there is. We've often spoken in the past about what we fear is this culture of entitlement. Entitlement. When you feel, I am owed this, I've got this coming to me, then you don't have gratitude. You don't have gratitude. If you're entitled to things, why would you thank somebody for it? Because it's yours. You got it coming to you. If we read the Bible properly, in many ways we're not owed anything. Everything we have is a gift. The next breath I take is a gift from God. So we have and what you just said, Reverend Bernard, Paul, you mentioned the contradiction, but Paul will often mention gratitude as a virtue. In other words, it's one of the, and in fact, there's a lot of great spiritual writers in all of our traditions that would mention gratitude as the beginning of friendship with the Lord.
Yeah.
Because when we realize it gives us a humility, which is that fundamental virtue of knowing that everything we have comes from a good God.
You know,
and we owe him our love and gratitude.
One of the things I find distasteful is when someone says it's their job. You know, you mentioned here you have people who risk their lives, whether it's firefighters, police, you know, the first responders, and I say you got to give thanks to them. And sometimes I'll hear, well, they signed up for this. And I think, how ungrateful are you?
Yeah, how ungrateful. And we ought to thank them for signing up for it.
Yeah.
You know it? Because we were just at you and I were just at the funeral of Patrick Brady last Saturday out at St. Francis de Sales. You talk about immense gratitude for that guy, the person he was and the life he gave in trying to protect human life. I mean, there was amazing gratitude there.
And the love for their faith. They very often do this because of their faith.
You know, Reverend Bernard, they mention one of the eulogies that the rabbi and I had to sit through a number of eulogies. Some of them are good, some of them you're thinking, uh-oh. But the one that said the 3 F's get us through: faith, friends, and family. Mm-hmm. Faith, friends, and families. The 3 F's, and I thought, wow, that's good. I got my Thanksgiving homily ready.
Isn't that important, what we as clergy, religious leaders, bring to society? This idea that without an anchor for the soul, we have nothing to protect us from what we can become when our humanity runs out. And that's a dangerous place to be. So faith that brings moral consciousness, transcendent morality and ethics is so important to a society. Gentlemen?
Remember who said that, Reverend Bernard, that we talked about him, that Alexis de Tocqueville, who to this day is noted as probably the most perceptive commentator on this American experiment in democracy. He came here from France in the 1830s and wrote that magnificent book. And he said, as a Frenchman, I asked, how can this democracy survive? And he said, it will survive in the United States because faith and religion are strong. And when faith and religion is strong, you have a check on the raw appetites that can sometimes drive us. And that's what you were just saying, A.R.
You know, I was talking to Controller DiNapoli, Tom DiNapoli. I said, Controller, you often list unclaimed funds. There are people who have funds they don't know about, and they don't claim them. And I said, I think we also have in this world unclaimed gratitude, that there are things we should be grateful for. For example, in growing up, how much did we appreciate our parents until we got older, right? Or they left the world. We said, oh, my God, they were extraordinary people.
You meet him, Rabbi Potesnik, and when I go to a wake, I'll never forget, I was a young priest, and there was the grandpa died, and the kid I knew pretty well. He was 14 years old, and he's sobbing at the casket, and I'm trying to console him. And all he said to me is, I never got to thank him. I never thanked him for who he was and what he did for me. And I thought, kid, you just learned one of the best lessons you could.
Yeah.
You know, that speaks to the fact that Scripture is more than just a religious text. It's a lens through which we see life, which we understand ourselves, our relationship to others. So it's a lot more than just a religious text. Yeah.
And Reverend Bernard, don't you find, you and I can say this, Joe will heartily agree, Rabbi Potesnik, I find that especially in the Psalms. The Jewish Psalms.
Which you took from us.
We borrowed it from the library. But every human emotion is in there, good and bad. You know it?
Yeah.
And the older I get, the more I appreciate the Psalms.
You know, in
I'm
Jewish
older than you
liturgy,
two.
so in Jewish liturgy, you wake up in the morning and the first prayer you're to say is called in Hebrew Modeh Ani, I give thanks. And throughout the day, you have to say thank you 100 times a day. There are so many blessings. 100 times a day you're saying thank you. So it's rooted in our respective traditions. You can't go through a day, you can't go through life without saying thank you. And I remember,
Rabbi Potasnik, but I remember somebody told me once, said, the first thing I do in the morning is think of eternity. I said, boy, that's good. And he said, yeah, as I'm getting out of bed, I say, oh, hell. I don't think that's what you had in mind. But
No. It's also that Reverend Bernard will use that as a sermon, I assure you.
Of course, gentlemen, we're going to have to go to a break.
I borrow from you, buddy. You can borrow from me.
Yeah, we're going to have to go to a break, but let me say this in closing this particular segment. There's a wonderful passage in the New Testament, and it says, in all things give thanks. Not for all things, but in all things give thanks. And we need to unpack that a little bit because I'd love to hear what both of you have to say. Stay tuned for more of the Rev and the Rabbi right here on Red Apple Radio Networks.
This shrimp and coconut sauce is divine. What's your secret?
Goya coconut milk.
How does it taste so good?
It's all in that real coconut flavor and that rich, creamy texture.
What about thickeners and added sugars?
None. Just smooth, coconutty goodness.
What can I make with it?
From curries to sweet treats like coconut flan, the possibilities are endless.
Goya coconut milk. Take your cooking to the next level. No question about it. Find it in the Goya section of your local grocery store. If it's Goya, it has to be good.
With new, gentler scented Clorox disinfecting wipes, clean finally smells as good as it feels. On everything from lamps to ceiling fans. Even on your kid's toy shark. Oh, ouch. Clorox disinfecting wipes. Now available in crisp lemon. Find it on Amazon. Clorox. Clean feels good.
Okay, Chad. Today you're gonna drive the all-electric Toyota BZ.
But my electric vehicle phobia. I'm not ready, Dr. Ross.
I believe in you.
Oh my gosh. We're inside it.
Try to take deep breaths, okay?
The ventilated seats, they're touching me.
You can do this, Chad. Drive the car. How do you feel, Chad?
I feel cured. Woohoo! I'm doing it!
The all-electric BZ. One drive can change your mind. Toyota. Let's go places.
Hey, Fidelity. What's it cost to invest with the Fidelity app?
Start with as little as $1 with no account fees or trade commissions on U.S. stocks and ETFs.
That's music to my ears.
I can only talk.
Investing involves risk, including risk of loss. Zero account fees apply to retail brokerage accounts only. Sell order assessment fee not included. A limited number of ETFs are subject to a transaction-based service fee of $100. See full list at fidelity.com/commissions. Fidelity Brokerage Services, LLC, member NYSE, SIPC.
The Rev and the Rabbi on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back. I'm Rabbi Joseph Potasnik.
And I'm Reverend A.R. Bernard.
And I am Timothy Cardinal Dolan.
Jumping right in, but there's a difference between giving thanks in all things and giving thanks for all things. And the Bible doesn't require us to be grateful for things that are, just atrocities. Can you two gentlemen speak to that?
Yeah, that's a good point, Reverend Bernard. We don't give thanks for atrocities. We wonder why, and God's as upset as we are most of the time. But we can always give thanks that we have a God who's ultimately in charge and who can bring some meaning, direction, and focus out of the worst tragedies. I remember once being in a little 2-year-old baby died of cancer at Sloan Kettering, and I had been close to the folks. And the mom was so upset, and she began to cry and look at me and say, why would God do this? What did we do to deserve this? How can there be a good God? And the husband just said, honey, how could God have given us this beautiful baby to begin with? We had this baby for 2 years. We're both crushed. We don't have this baby longer, but let's give thanks that we had this baby for the 2 years. I thought, my, oh, my, what faith. And you talk about gratitude in adversity. My, oh, my.
Wow. You know, there is a custom at a Jewish funeral. A person dies, and you tear part of the clothing, or some people use a ribbon, and you recite a blessing. Blessed art thou, Lord of the universe, judge of truth. And you say, wait a minute, I'm tearing a ribbon which symbolizes tearing of my heart, and I'm reciting a blessing. And Cardinal, in keeping with what you just said, it teaches you whatever you had, whether it was little or a little bit more, be thankful for that, and be thankful for the people who did everything humanly possible to prolong that life.
See? Yeah.
So we always try to find, you know, what do they say? The eyes are composed of two parts, the light and the dark, but you only see out of the dark. That even in the darkness, the difficulty, you look out and you try to find the light and love.
Cardinal, every now and then he gives me a few sermons, you know, so you got to listen closely.
As long as I don't have to listen to him, fine. All right.
Cardinal, before we lose you, College of Bishops came out with a statement concerning immigration. And interesting thing is because, you know, we tend to be conservative and you know, right of center, and we hold to the dignity, life and dignity of the human person. These are our social ethics. And so we tend to lean in certain political directions because of that. But when those political directions violate other ethics that we stand for, we have to say something. We have to exercise our prophetic voice. And the College of Bishops, and you did that. Speak to that, please, Cardinal.
Well, thank you. Thanks for reading it, Reverend Bernard. Most Catholics haven't, so I'm glad you and Joe have. No, and let's put it in perspective. We get criticized for it, but I said read it carefully. First of all, we say it's the duty of government to control the borders. It's the duty of government to protect their citizens from dangerous people. So when you're talking about immigration reform, if you mean to tighten the border, if you mean to send cutthroats back, hallelujah, we're on your side. But two things: don't punish the good immigrants who are here. Never would we minimize their humanity because they don't have a green card or a passport. And please, and this is patriotic, it's not just religious, let's not damage the magnificent, the stellar pedigree of America in being a home and a refuge for the Americans. Those are conservative principles, aren't they? In many ways, you could say this comes from patriotism. I'm not just for protecting the immigrants because I happen to be a believer. I'm also a patriotic American who knows that immigrants have been a tremendous blessing for this country. And yes, do we need to have a sane, vigilant border? You bet we do. Do we have to make sure the cutthroats don't get in, or if they have, send them back? Yep. But boy, oh boy, we do not caricature the immigrant. And please, let's do nothing to chip away at that magnificent legacy of welcome that has made this country the great one that it is.
You know, the Bible, Torah, mentions the stranger 36 times. Remember, because you were strangers, remember the stranger. And one of the things that I find very troubling is, Your Eminence and Reverend, that we have this contempt for the other, and whatever the other happens to be at that moment. Could be the one we call an outsider, the one who has an other opinion than we do, but there is a contempt for it. How dare you disagree with me? How dare you be here? We don't discuss it, we denigrate. And that is so troubling. That you mentioned humanity. We seem to have lost in many cases the humanity of the other who is different than we are.
Way to go, Rabbi. And you, as a prominent Jewish leader, can say that because you have, and now it's again this vicious anti-Semitism, where our Jewish neighbors are classically characterized as the other, the other. And this is just bad. Mother Teresa used to say, try not to say they. Let's say we. We. You know, we're in this together. Right. We're all children of God. We're all made in His image and likeness. There's not an other. It's us.
Cardinal, it's very important, and Rabbi also, because this has to do with both the Hebrew Scriptures and the Christian New Testament. Cardinal, in the beginning of our conversation, you casually said it, but it's so important. You said, if you read it properly, speaking of the Bible, if you read it properly, which means you can misread it, intentionally misread it, to justify certain things that are totally inconsistent or diametrically opposed to the message of Scripture. Is that what we're seeing in our society?
Well, the old saying, the devil can quote Scripture for his own ends. So we always have to put it as part. That's why I think we, certainly those of the Jewish faith, but I think, Reverend Bernard, we always say the Scriptures are always read through the lens of our tradition and through the community. It's not a private book, all right? It belongs to all of us. And when we give it a private interpretation, we got to apply it to ourselves, that's for sure. But when we give it an excessively privatized interpretation to suit our own ends, that's it's not ours to tamper with. We're reading it as part. We're reading it as part of a thousands and thousands of years of wisdom and inspiration that we always have to take into consideration when we're trying to apply the sacred teachings of Scripture.
Look, we look at the Bible, and it begins with the story of creation, and it states, "Let us create man in our image, not your image, in our image," and therefore we all have that same spiritual birth certificate as children of God, as members of one human family. There's a reason for
Rabbi,
that.
be careful, because Reverend Bernard and I will use this as an occasion to jump into the doctrine of the Blessed Trinity. Father, Son, and Spirit. But we don't need to get into that.
That you didn't take from us, I can tell you that. Yeah. We have just a few minutes. Go ahead, Rabbi.
National religion. We talked about this, and the whole idea of nationalizing a specific religion. And that's crazy talk for me, because America was founded by those who were trying to escape a national religion. Cardinal, Rabbi?
Way to go, Reverend Bernard. Yes, a national religion. That doesn't mean we have a nationalized religion. That doesn't mean we have an imposed religion. That doesn't mean we equate the goals of the nation with God's goals. But it does mean that at the core of our existence as a grand republic is biblical wisdom, what God has revealed about the dignity of the human person, the necessity of freedom, and the common good. Those are all biblical. Those are all biblical teachings that animate everything we do in the United States. So, I'm not to talk about a national religious sentiment. I think, hallelujah, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
And is it ever more evident than on Thanksgiving Day?
That should be the biggest challenge we have. Is that on this day, Thanksgiving, we all come together, express gratitude to God, to our family, to our faith. If that is a problem, then we are very blessed to have that problem. Right? That should be our biggest. My mother would say that should be your biggest problem. Before we go, Your Eminence, I know I speak for the Rev on this. We are thankful to you because you've made interfaith relations a priority in your ministry.
Absolutely.
And you have enlarged the circle. There are more people at the table than ever before. So New York, the country, and by extension, the world, if New York is the capital of the world, we are blessed to have you leading us.
You, Joe Potasnik, are characteristically gracious. Thank you, AR. And if I have been able to do that, you kind of think I have in a little way, I couldn't have done it without the companionship of two folks like you. So thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for your gracious words.
My friends.
Thank you.
Okay?
All right.
We'll be there at 1 o'clock at your residence for that dinner. So thank you right now. I know.
Bring the pumpkin pies. All right.
It'll be kosher. I don't know how good it'll be, but it'll be kosher. All right.
And we'll be back with more of the Rev and the Rabbi right here on Red Apple Radio Networks.
I turned off news altogether.
I hate to say it, but I don't trust much of anything.
It's the rage bait.
It feels like it's trying to divide people.
If we got clear facts, maybe we could calm down a little.
NBC News brings you clear reporting. Let's meet at the facts. Let's move forward from there. NBC News, reporting for America.
From writer-director Rian Johnson.
The Holy Grail, a perfectly impossible crime.
Wake Up Dead Man has critics singing its praises.
God help me. Anything else?
It's a deliciously entertaining mystery.
That's nice.
It's certified fresh.
It's a miracle.
Okay, you're freaking me out now.
It's the best Knives Out movie yet.
This case is solvable, right?
Oh, you'll see. It's fun.
Wake Up Dead Man, a Knives Out mystery starring Daniel Craig. Now playing in select theaters on Netflix December 12th, rated PG-13.
Introducing Meta Ray-Ban Display, the world's most advanced AI glasses. With a full color display built into the lens of the glasses, it's there when you need it and gone when you don't. Send and receive messages, translate or caption live conversations, collaborate with Meta AI, and more. Be one of the first to try Meta Ray-Ban Display. Visit meta.com/Meta Ray-Ban Display to book a demo and find your pair.
A message from McAfee. Wondering why the post office is texting you or why you owe thousands of dollars in toll fees? Because someone's trying to scam you. The good news? McAfee can help. With McAfee's award-winning scam detection, it's easy to tell what's real and what's fake over text, in your inbox, and online. If they're
You want a free gift?
Seriously? If they're faking it, they're not making it past us. Get award-winning scam detection today. McAfee.com/keepitreal.
The Rev and the Rabbi on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back. I'm Rabbi Joe Spatasnik.
And I'm Reverend A.R. Bernard. Great conversation.
Yeah, great. And let's thank Elias Raff, our producer, who makes this all possible and tells us when to have the breaks and when to come back. So you need someone to be the coach here.
I love that. Yeah, sure. When to speak and when to shut up. That's power. That's power.
Yeah.
So having a cardinal, it was amazing. But you said something, and rightly so. And
finally,
we agree, because you spoke to who he is as a person. In our faith tradition, Christian faith tradition, there is the teachings of Jesus, there are the actions of Jesus, what he actually did, right? But then there's also the person of Jesus, who he was in character, in nature, the compassion, the love that he shared with all kinds of people. It didn't matter just, his own Jewish people, but Samaritans and Gentiles, et cetera. And it's amazing because most religions will point to a set of doctrines or moral teachings. But Christianity, really, if it's read properly, like we were talking about, points to the person of Jesus, how his whole life was about incarnating in human form the character, compassion, and nature of God. But isn't it true that regardless of what a person does and accomplishes in life, we still have to look at the person? The person is what attracts us. The person is what moves us in a very special way.
So, interestingly, there was a prophet years ago, fairly unknown, by the name of Habakkuk. And he said if you were to take the entire religious tradition, Jewish tradition, and try to condense it into a few words, what would it say? And he felt a person must live according to his faith or her faith. That if you live it, if you love it, then you're going to make a difference. That is Timothy Cardinal Dolan. He doesn't just quote the faith, he lives the faith. And he lives it in a way that includes others. You sit at the table with him, and he makes everyone feel you matter here. You have an important voice here. We value you. So I think he's a great blessing in New York. I've often heard people say no one's irreplaceable. It's not true. It's not true. Yeah. There are people you cannot replace, and hopefully we'll have him with us for many, many years to come. But what a difference he has made in bringing the interfaith community together.
Absolutely. It was Maya Angelou who said, I spoke at her 80th birthday party celebration, and I won't say where I was, Mar-a-Lago, but as we were there, she said something. She said, you remember people a little bit by what they say, more by what they do, but mostly by how they made you feel.
Mm-hmm.
And that is so true. When you're in someone's presence and they make you feel good, they bring out the best in you. And I don't mean, massaging you with flattery, but genuinely you leave their presence feeling uplifted. And Cardinal Dolan is like that. I try to be like that, in every way I can. But isn't that what makes the difference with a leader's relationship with people?
You and I have often spoken to younger clergy, and we've impressed upon them this theology of presence, that what people remember is you were there for us during a difficult time, during a celebratory time. You were there. We didn't walk alone. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, thou art with me. Well, the thou talks of God, but it also means there are people who walk with us during those difficult times, and also during very, very, happy times. We have to be there. And this is a cardinal, he travels all over. But I know he always carries with him the names of people who are confined, who are hurting deeply, and he calls them. And he doesn't even know some of them. That, to me, is the essence of an outstanding member of the clergy. That the flock. You don't forget the flock, even when you don't know the flock.
Exactly. I wish he was still on the show with us, because you bring something to mind. So my dentist, right? His daughter is born, and she has a problem with her heart, and they have to perform surgery at such a young and tender age, right? So he's telling me the story while I'm there, experiencing his services. And he knows that I had a relationship with the Cardinal. He said to me, by the way, do you know Cardinal Dolan called me to pray with me and to pray with the family about this? This guy he lives out in Long Island, and his practice is out in Long Island. I go because he's good and we have a relationship. But can you imagine him to be able to say something like that to someone with the Cardinal's schedule, that he can point to a specific moment? Someone said something to the Cardinal, and he acted upon what he heard.
So let me extend that. I have a family I know, Jewish family, and they're great admirers of the Cardinal. And they were in an accident. And without asking them, I called the Cardinal and said, could you reach out to this family? And similarly, they called me and said, can you believe who called us? It meant so much to us. And I said, that is wonderful. I said, I hope you react the same way when I call you, when a rabbi calls you. The Cardinal called us. But yeah, he has that kind of embrace that is so warm, so welcoming. We need more of that in our world. There's just too much hatred. And again, nobody minimizes the importance of disagreement when it's predicated on principle. But when it's predicated on personal attacks, that's when it's very disturbing. That's when it's destructive. Let's learn to be careful when we label someone the other or the outsider. We all know what it means. You and I certainly know what it means to be called outsider. You don't belong here, right? You're not one of us.
It goes back to reading the scripture properly, because we can spin it like we spin the facts today to make them say something else. We can spin sacred scripture to make it say what we would like and justify our actions, actions that can be totally inconsistent with the message of Scripture, the overall message of Scripture. And we've seen that, in anti-Semitism, in the slave trade, in all types of oppression around the world. And that's why it's so important that we judge what people do and use Scripture to justify. Judge whether it's consistent with the character and nature expressed of God in the Scripture. I'm preaching. What can I tell you?
One of the things I find so upsetting, maddening, is when I see someone who claims to be religious guilty of some heinous act. Here you embody, or you outwardly embody religion, and you're doing something like that, there's no defense for it. There's no defense. When you have that cloak of piety, or however you want to describe it, then what you're saying is, I adhere to a certain, as you would say, Rev, moral values consensus. I adhere to a certain article of faith, or a body of faith that says this is what you can do and this is what you cannot do. And when you cross that boundary, you're shaming your people, you're shaming religion. It's indefensible.
Yep, absolutely. I know we're coming down to the close of this particular segment, but you just stir in my mind with the language of morality. But we live in a time where everyone doesn't subscribe to the same morality. They don't ascribe to objective truth, to transcendent morality, to ethics that transcend the culture. And that's a whole other conversation.
They make up their own. They make up their own rules, and then they call it religion. They say, this is what my religion says, and you say, well, I'm looking. Where is that found? And it's just it's tailor made for the moment. Some people become those religious tailors. They cut something out because it fits their narrative. And
that's a good one. I like that. Religious tailors. That's very good. I'm going to use that. I'm going to give you credit the first time.
I understand. George Bernard Shaw said the smartest guy he ever met was his tailor, because every time he said, I come, he fits me. He measures me to see, how have it changed? Are you the same? Are you different? So we always have to indulge in self-examination. Am I really being loyal to my faith, to the principles that are holy, or am I deviating from them and then trying to, somehow defend them?
Yeah, we have several things to talk about. I want to make sure we get them on the agenda, and then, of course, talk about Thanksgiving real quick and give thanks. But, I heard a very interesting statement from former editor of the New York Post, and I'll share it when we come back. But I'd like to present it to you and see what you have to say about it. So stay tuned for more of the Rev
and the Rabbi.
That was your cue. We need to step up. We'll be right back.
If we knew more about our sleep, what would we do differently? Would we go to bed at a consistent time or take steps to reduce interruptions to our sleep? With the all-new Sleep Score, Apple Watch measures your bedtime consistency, interruptions, and sleep duration. Then, every morning it combines these factors into an easy-to-understand score from 1 to 100. So you'll know how to take the quality of your sleep from good to excellent. Introducing the new Sleep Score on Apple Watch. iPhone 11 or later required.
Why wait for Black Friday? Blink Friday starts now with up to 65% off Blink Smart Security. Check on your pets all season long with new Blink Mini 2K Plus plug-in cameras. See your gifts arrive in head-to-toe view with Blink Video Doorbell. Ready to use right out of the box. Just unwrap Blink and go. Pet setters to busy families. Blink Friday deals have your holidays covered. Tap the banner to save now.
Say hello to the all-new Alexa Plus and see how Alexa can do so much more for you. Need tickets to see your favorite artist? Craving your comfort restaurant? Just sit back, relax, and talk naturally. Alexa's on it. It learns your style, anticipates what's next, and makes it happen across Echo, Fire TV, and more. Learn more at Amazon.com/new Alexa.
This podcast is brought to you by Carvana. Carvana lets you buy your next car on your terms. Explore a massive inventory online, filter for what matters, and find your perfect match. Then choose delivery to your home or pick it up at one of Carvana's iconic car vending machines. Every car also comes with a 7-day money-back guarantee, so you can make sure it's the right fit. Buy your car on Carvana. Delivery or pickup fees may apply. Limitations and exclusions may apply. See our 7-day return policy at Carvana.com.
Carvana.
The Rev and the Rabbi on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back. I'm Rabbi Joe Spatasnik.
And I'm Reverend A.R. Bernard.
And the question is, Rev, go ahead.
Well, they were doing an analysis of where society is. And I think there's a lawsuit that the president was raising against BBC because, wrongly so, the BBC News edited, a piece to kind of, stir the interpretation in a particular direction. And President Trump, suffered, decided to threaten a lawsuit. In fact, I was in London when he threatened the lawsuit. But one of the things that the former editor of New York, not New York Post, it was Washington Post. Washington Post said, he said, today it's not a battle of opinions. We used to battle our opinions, our commentary, our thoughts about something. He said, but now it's a battle over facts, because we no longer have a shared, belief in truth and what the facts are. So now we're arguing over facts, no longer opinion. And if we don't have a shared set of values about truth and about facts, then how is there hope for us, beyond divine intervention, Rabbi?
Yeah, this is one of the big problems, that we make up things as we go along, and we treat them as facts. And how dare you disagree with my presentation of the facts? It's just, when the world was created, there was good, there was evil, but there were absolute truths. Look, my father, I mentioned, he was in retail, at a grocery store, and he used to keep the Bible near the scale. And, you should have just weights. That was open to that page. That was fundamental for him. It wasn't like, well, you can cut the corners. You don't have to be, so honest. You can cheat a little bit for profit. No, you couldn't. This was absolute. This was a truth. And, so make up all you want, but don't call it a truth. And I think, unfortunately, today, and with social media, you can, well, here, look at this quotation here without fact-checking. And now with AI, it is, people are talking to bots. They're not even talking to humans. And things are presented as being so factual, so truthful. And we are paying a severe price for it. Years ago, you were a man of integrity, a man of honesty. Well, today, you define what honesty is. There's no, you don't use an absolute measure, and that's dangerous.
Yeah, absolutely. Because and why does it matter? To all our listening audience across the country, why does truth matter? Why do the facts matter? All right, it's because if we are arguing over them, all right, then there's an erosion of shared reality. Because when we talk about facts and truth, we're essentially talking about reality. And when large parts of the public, believe competing, mutually contradictory narratives, Rabbi, about whatever it is, we lose a shared basis for understanding what actually happened, and that makes democratic deliberation and accountability much harder, much difficult for us to come together, because, we're not even agreeing on the facts anymore.
I was saying to someone this past week that both parties have their extremes. Democratic Party, the Republican Party, there are extremes in the party. And rather than indulging in comparative, negligence or comparative, failure, oh, yours is worse than mine. Why don't we do this? Why don't we get the leaders of both parties to stand together and to say what some of our members of our party have said, unacceptable. We condemn them on both sides. Let the Republicans say it. Let the Democrats say it, instead of always pointing fingers at the other. And I think people are very frustrated, disheartened by the political system when you don't have leaders who are willing to stand up and say what is right, regardless of who it comes from. For us, it's very painful to criticize our own. It is, because we're proud of who we are. But there comes a time when someone crosses the line, you better be prepared to take that person on. You better be prepared to declare you have done something that shames us. We don't do that enough.
Yeah, it creates a situation, because now we have what is called fact-checking, remember? And we have organizations that specialize in fact-checking, and then you have to determine whether that organization is reliable, if it's trustworthy, So you got who's going to fact check the fact checkers, you know what I mean? And we get fact checked fatigue, Rabbi, because after a while, when we're constantly having to check and recheck and double check and triple check, we just say, what the heck? But I'm just going to turn it all off. I'm going to shut it down. That's why with things like you pointed out, algorithmic amplification, the social media that amplifies sensational claims, especially those claims that that question the legitimacy of what's being said, or institutions that are saying it. People distrust media. People distrust government and institutions. And what does that do to a society? We begin to become so suspicious of everything and everybody. All right. We begin to trust ourselves only. And that's not good because there's no accountability.
You and I grew up with Walter Cronkite. Right?
Yep.
And you remember very well, if Cronkite said it, it's true. Right? He was the gold standard of factuality. He was the gold standard of truth. And then I remember with the New York Times years ago, all the news is fit to print. Oh, the paper of record. And then we found, you deviated from what you should be doing. You distorted the truth. Not Walter Cronkite. I'm talking about the paper. And, now it's commonplace to say, this is fake and that is fake. And in many cases, it is fake. It's made up. And that is unfortunate because we teach our kids to be honest, to be people who are exemplars of decency. And yet, look around. I think I told you once, there a group of adults were talking at a conference about the language that young people use, how unfortunate it is that they use some of the obscene language. And you got back to the kids, and one of the kids turned around and said, wait a minute. You're looking at us and saying we use obscene language? Do you ever hear what you say? Right? I mean, we got to be examples of what we talk about. And unfortunately, the movie and the book are apart from each other.
Unfortunate. And speaking of young people, my son, Jamal Bernard, who's now the senior pastor of Christian Cultural Center.
I know it well.
Matter
of fact, I called the church. I called the CCC for, AR, but they said, who? I said, Jamal's a pastor.
That's not good. That's right. Make me feel good. But we were talking about millennials and the millennial mind. And he said, they were having a conversation, and one millennial said, it's not that we reject religion. We just reject hypocrisy. What does that say about our representation of the faith and religious belief? If a generation is convinced that it's just hypocrisy.
Yeah. It's not.
We got to get our act together.
It's not the what, it's the who. Show me the who. You told me the what, but I want to see the who. I want to see the people who represent the what. Rev, we're coming to the end of the program. We have 2 minutes left.
Thanksgiving. Giving thanks.
And, I know people sitting at the table come together, Thanksgiving, and some of them share totally antithetical opinions. That is not a reason to destroy the relationship. I hear people say, I'm not, so-and-so voted for so, I can't talk to that person. It's a member of the family. Are we going to take, a blood relationship and let it just disappear because we took a different point of view? Or can we say, let's preserve the relationship in spite of the fact that we have, a serious disagreement here? I can't imagine a family relationship is worth dissolving for the sake of a disagreement.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate that we become so identified with our opinion that we reject anyone that doesn't agree with us.
The other, right? The other opinion, the other person. It's always the other. Right.
That's tribalism.
Yeah.
Well, Rabbi, it's been great sharing time with you and having these great conversations. By the way, one of the members of our Commission of Religious Leaders, Imam Talib, passed this past week, and you were at a funeral, correct?
I was with him 2 weeks earlier at a funeral, and he gave the homily. It was a paramedic who died, line of service But, it just shows you don't take life for granted. Be thankful for what you have as long as you have it.
Absolutely. And Thanksgiving is about giving thanks. It's about an attitude of gratitude. Gratitude confirms relationships. In our New Testament, I'll close with this, we have a situation where Jesus comes across 10 lepers and he heals them. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden, they turn away. One turned around and said, "Thank you." And Jesus says, "Weren't there 10? Where's the other 9? The expectation is thanks, gratitude. That's the expectation.
Good way to begin the day, good way to conclude the day. Thank you so much, Rev.
Absolutely. All right, my friend, always good to be with you and have a conversation with our incredible listeners across the country. Till next time, the Rev and the Rabbi, God bless.
Thanks for listening to The Rev and the Rabbi. You can hear The Rev and the Rabbi Sunday mornings at 7. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?
Hey, Ryan Reynolds here. Wishing you a very happy half-off holiday because right now Mint Mobile is offering you the gift of 50% off unlimited. To be clear, that's half price, not half the service. Mint is still premium unlimited wireless for a great price. So that means a half day, yeah? Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. New customer offer for first 3 months only. Speeds slow after 35 gigabytes if network's busy. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.